We talked about the I Rule the World MO account.
Not surprising probably here, China is leading the world when it comes to AI.
The robot demonstrations we're seeing are really impressive in their physical capacity.
To me, when I was a kid, this amazed me. And this is along the ideas of like the pneumatic tubes way back in the day.
Hey, what's going on? Today is Friday, August 23rd, 2024. You are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today is the, what did they just say about business? Which means that today is our every other Friday, which gives us an opportunity to slow down, go backwards, look at some of the shows that we have been talking about. And I'm even going to pull them up here on the screen really quick. By the way, we have Beth and Jyunmi, and I'm Brian. You can just see here, we've covered quite a few topics over the last 2 weeks. I already have a couple things queued up from, I told you, with the Drive-Thrus and the robots that happened seemingly hours after we went live, which sometimes happens. So, or actually happens a lot in AI, right? So we've talked from everything about, you can see it down here. This would be 2 weeks ago. We talked about Strawberry. We can talk about that today. Like what has happened, what has not happened. How consequential is that? So there's a lot to talk about Strawberry still, even if people are feeling like, oh, Strawberry again. It's interesting to talk about what's going on there. We obviously talked about using LLMs, getting rates to zero. We have our news show. We talked about, what's the new modern day AI business plan if you're a small to medium enterprise business. Clip anything. I'd love to actually at some point go backwards on that, Jyunmi, and just now that you've had a full other week, have you used the Clip anything from Opus Clip more? This week we started talking about AI robots. I have some more on that one. We talked about revolutionizing the fast food drive-thru process and just fast food in general. I have something on that came up. We talked about the breaking news, and then yesterday we talked about the Pareto problem and basically the 80-20 rule and how that applies. So that kind of gets you, I don't know, caught up, I suppose, over what our last week's been. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm always sort of shocked to see how much we covered in any 2 week period. And I'll give us a little, I'm going to give us a little pat on the back from somebody else. I had an opportunity. It was a great time to be on a show yesterday. And the host was saying, our friend Ann, she was saying like before we were live, she's like, I don't know how you guys put out 5 shows a week, and I said, the answer is we've never done it differently. I think had we started at once a week or even once a month and then said we should speed this up, we would have all fallen out of our chairs. But the reality is this show has always been 5 days a week live. We've known no different, and it is a breakneck pace. It shocks us sometimes, but it's the only reality we've ever known for this show, which I think is probably one of the smarter things we ever did, was we started at a breakneck pace. So now it just kind of feels normal. And then we shoot ourselves in the foot when we say, shouldn't we create more content? Everything up, right? Jyunmi and Beth are both just laughing and looking at me, So let me kick it over to you, Jyunmi or Beth. Actually, let me kick it over to you, Jyunmi, first, because I did ask you about Opus Clip. I'd be curious to hear, have you used any more of Clip anything? I know it's in sort of beta/alpha.
Oh, yeah. The beta program is fantastic. I will say, of all of the AI tools and services that have come out, Opus gives the best like early access, free access, beta access levels of all of them that I've seen. Like even when we were just finding out about Opus, they gave me something like an hour's worth of compute time, right, for videos, which is great because our videos are, at a minimum, like 35 minutes. So that's a good chunk of time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get into the beta for Clip anything, I would say give it a shot. They give you 10 videos a day at no processing minutes.
And so that pretty much covers us, right? I mean,
yeah, it's fantastic. So if you ask if I've been using it since the episode, yes, every single day. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So
like we said, that's the tool that we use. I said in the newsletter too, just to be super clear, and I'll say it here, we're not sponsored by them. If we do a tool review, you guys will know right out of the bat that, hey, this tool reached out to us, said, would you mind looking at our thing? And we will tell you that there was some back-end conversation. Opus Clip, I don't know, Jimmy, we just literally found them the same way we looked at any of the Munch and all the other ones. By the way, worst name ever. Munch, it's the worst name ever for a business.
I get it. It's chewing through your content to get...
It's chewing through your money is what it is.
That's true. They are the most expensive one I've come across.
Jeez. Anyway, we found it naturally. I used to say, Jimmy, you found it naturally. I mean, obviously the whole team works on this, but Jimmy, obviously we said many times, you're the brains behind the video production, the quality of this. You really are our show producer and runner to make sure we're all doing the right things and getting better at it, hopefully over a year. We're certainly not where we were a year ago, as well as both the quality of the edits, just the way we host and carry our conversations hopefully is a little bit better. But a lot of it obviously is props to you for all the work you do. So Opus Clip was just something we found along the way, and it sort of rose to the top naturally, as they should, these AI tools. And I will say it's kind of stayed there, right? It's still... It hasn't been knocked off despite our best efforts to knock it off to see if something else comes around. We're tool agnostic. We'll move around. So it's super cool to hear you say, a week even later. So you've had it now like a week and a half. You've had full access, and hear you be enthusiastic about using it every day just speaks volumes to, the quality of the tool.
I did want to bring full disclosure. It is a beta. Yeah, there will be, some hiccups. But I realized I didn't get time to really go over what that might be. And there's only really one, blaring one. And that is when you're using Clip Anything right now, you probably will have to regenerate the title and description. Like most of these tools, they'll generate an appropriate title or a catchy title or something like that, because it's all meant to be redistributed or repurposed for social media. And so it'll create a title and description, hashtags, things like that. Now, sometimes if you load it up, it won't necessarily give you the best one right off the bat, and it'll be like really generic, but they have a regenerate button. And if you click and unclick your source, then it'll reveal itself. So if there was one drawback for a beta program, I'd say that was the only fault I could find with it.
I want to bring this up really quick. Oh God, where did it go? From Justin. Why do AI companies have such bad names? Literally, a chatbot could come up with a better name. I think as a reference to the to Munch. And I just want to say I agree with that, but I also think that's probably a cool show. It's just like, let's just gather as many AI tool names as we can, which would be funny in itself to try to like source that and rank them just strictly on their names. Like knowing nothing, even if we do know what it is.
Absolutely. Like my top one is custom GPTs. Like
ChatGPT. Even simple, but it's been like, we're stuck with it. We didn't think it would get this popular. I always say that's the Dave Matthews Band, edition of it. Dave Matthews, if you know that band, has always said, dude, we didn't want to be called Dave Matthews Band. We needed a name. We got on a stage. It stuck a little too long. We didn't make the pivot when we should have. And it got on too many posters. And here they are 30 years later. They're still the Dave Matthews Band, despite being a ensemble band. I mean, they're right. All the players are just as important. So I kind of feel like that with ChatGPT, Sam has said, paraphrasing, hey, is it the name we would have said? We would have called it. Doesn't roll off the tongue. So yeah, maybe that would be a fun conversation, or fun show. I think we should do that just for a fun idea. Just either give it praise or dump on it for whatever we collectively think are good or bad names. Munch is up there for me for sure.
Well, now you're making me want to do a search. Like, how many Groks are there? Right? So we know Grok with a K, but Grok with a Q. Is there a QE? Is there a CK? Is there are there two Ks? Are there...
So unfortunate. I know several of us have been in the entrepreneurial space, and man, that is unfortunate. You really, I know I did, my gym was called, my well, our Nutrition WOD was the name of one of our businesses, but WOD is a typical name to have in the CrossFit community. It is generally safe. CrossFit is very litigious. So if you used anything with the name CrossFit in it, they sent you a cease and desist faster than you could blink. Totally understand that, protecting their brand and all that kind of stuff. And obviously for the gym, it was you are CrossFit, the letters, the U are CrossFit. We used to also say like you are CrossFit, and I had this massive mural on our wall. I was in a 5,000 square foot gym. Our second gym was 5,000 square feet. So you can imagine 20-foot ceilings, 5,000 square foot gym had this massive wall, and in just big bold black letters it said you are CrossFit, because my whole thing was anybody can do CrossFit, right? So that was like, there was a bit of, marketing behind that or whatever. But just like anything else, people are like, CrossFit or Scale, the company I work for like now. What does Claude do? It's like, even when you have the best intentions with names, so I'm certainly not picking on anybody because I know how hard it is to come up with a good name.
So I want to dig back into Strawberry because that like existence of we talked about the I Rule the World MO account and how rapid that was and how the hype for Strawberry was going. And it actually, there were probably 3 spaces that I jumped into that were bid as like talk with Strawberry, talk with GPT-5, talk with, right? So they're and they're just like X users hosting a space, right? That's not OpenAI or anything. What I thought was really interesting about it, and actually even a little heart-wrenching in some ways, was that through that process, there was an ex-user named Lily who was designated or doubted about whether they were a bot or not. Now, they spoke, they had conversations back and forth, and that was like sort of one of those moments for me of being like, I'm not certain, right? The fact that we're questioning whether this person we're having a conversation with who is saying all kinds of things but repeating some things, right? Like I had to Google that. I'm sorry, my brain just went blank. Things that seemed like, oh, that's a repeated thing. That sounds bot-like. It just sort of brought up, like, can any of us prove we're human if we're not able to see each other or be in space together? Like, it was a really funky Turing test kind of thing of like, wow, I did not think that in 2024 we would be having conversations saying like, I'm not sure you're a human.
And listen, this is obviously a great setup for Monday's show, which we're just getting scheduled out and put in the books, which is the reality paradox. Yes. So talking about why is it getting easier? The paradox being, why is it getting easier to say something's fake than real with AI? We're seeing it obviously in politics because there's a lot going on there, but in other areas as well. And this is just going to be a growing concern. So it's I want to make sure we bring that back up again on Monday, Beth. But this idea of, even if somebody is real and on X and posting, but maybe they're using slightly broken English for no fault of their own, are people, for whatever reason, right? Yeah, that they speak the way they speak, I mean, who are we to judge? But people start thinking, well, that's bot-like, it's making mistakes, it's slightly off, it's got that uncanny valley feel to it. Oh, that's a bot, that's not a real person. And vice versa, right? What is that a good thing for you to be able to quickly say, not me, that's a bot? So we're definitely going to be talking about that. That's Monday's show coming up, the reality paradox. So
just yesterday, I saw several instances of, now this is on TikTok, I saw several instances of relatively new accounts, but generating a considerable number of followers in just a little while. Basically, young, beautiful women dancing, but there was something off about each one. And you could see somehow that it wasn't really continuous video. And I was able to say, wow, this is a new trend here. People are using some new tool that is allowing them to put up a dancing image of not themselves, but maybe something that they've designed with really sort of near perfect human, configuration of facial features. And yet I was delighted that I could, as you suggest, Brian, see that it wasn't really real. Even as convincing as it was, there was just something that my intuition said, this is not working the same way a real live video feed would.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. So I wanted to talk about not real, just as a segue here, robots, because we were definitely talking about robots this Monday, and we were talking, the conversation was more about like the future of humanoid robots in the home. And so there was a bit of a sort of barrier there, but we did expand and talk about robots in general and Optimus and all that. But man, oh man, not surprising probably here, China is leading the world when it comes to AI, not just humanoid robots. So they just had, it's sort of tiny here, but they had there was a huge display at the Chinese Academy of Sciences booth during the World Robot Conference in Beijing, China on August 21st. Well, today is the 23rd, so that happened on Wednesday, where this picture is from Wednesday. This is a Reuters thing. And you can see in the next picture here, not a humanoid robot, something with just two legs and sort of a brain on top. And it looks, in this case, like a young kid is doing some like maybe karate or Tai Chi or something like that with the robot. It's a still frame, obviously, it's not a video. And then on the third one here from Tech, if that's how you say it, it looks like there's some dexterity demonstrations going on here about packing and things like that. And then if we switch over, look at this robot.
Humanoid robot is ready for mass production. The Chinese company just shared footage of the pint-sized G1 humanoid robot, saying it.
Now, I don't know if that robot, if there's something funky with that video, if that is edited in some way, sped up in some way, but the mobility and dexterity of that robot is not like things we're typically seeing. Now, I just had a LinkedIn post this morning from Boston Dynamics based off a robot that does push-ups, right? And so I was making a joke about CrossFit, speaking of, talking about how like that robot's doing better push-ups than some of the ones I used to see in the gym. And I think its burpees are going to be pretty good pretty soon, to be frank about it. So we're seeing these robots like, definitely with Boston Dynamics, move and duck and be in human spaces. But then you see the stuff like that's currently being done in China. And I didn't even find the one where they had a family of robots and they weren't all humanoid. And they were releasing all 5 of those. I don't know. What's your guys' take on that? Because it's a different world across the world when it comes to AI robotics right now, in my mind.
It would make sense to me that that some companies are not actually showing how fast any of the robots can move, right? Like that would make sense to me that that's like just a general agreement across the board that like, hey, it can move faster than this, but we think that's going to freak the snot out of everybody. So we're just going to have it move at this level, because there are like more experimental robots, like tiny 4-legged kind of things, where the videos that come out, the tests that they're doing is how fast can you move, right? And it can move very, very quickly. So I'm not sure about the 2-legged ones, and that was a 2-legged one, but the 4-legged ones can totally haul is what I'm thinking.
How about robots start doing parkour and scaling sides of buildings quickly? Mm-hmm. It's concerning. It's concerning. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I this is funny, right? Because we just talked. Well, no, I talked about on Ann's thing yesterday. We were talking about military and AI investment in military and stuff. So there's 2 ways to look at that: hostage situation, parkour type robot that quickly can scale a building and take care of a situation very quickly. Thumbs up. Love the robots. Do that for me. Used in surveillance and other means to control citizens, thumbs down. Not really loving the parkour robot, so we were just talking about this yesterday. Like, you can both be for investment in AI and not want to stifle innovation, but just be aware where the other side of that is. And I'll just bring this up on the screen here. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it this way. Here we go. This is just one to pull this up again from the Reuters, and it's showing the 15 largest markets in 2022. So this data is a little bit older, of annual installations of industrial robots. And China at the top is, it makes like everybody else, looks like everybody else is standing still based on this data. From 0 units all the way 250,000 units. Japan is second on here with about 50,000 units. US looks to be, let's say, 40,000 units, and they're number 2 and number 3. China is over 200 and probably closer to 300,000 units. And this is a 2022 deck.
Just a point on that, because these are industrial robots and likely involved in manufacturing, that chart probably represents to a large degree China's share of manufacturing globally, right? So yeah, there's a lot more industrial robots. Why? Because they have more factories.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I like that point on it. It's a good article, by the way. The article is called one sec. China's robot makers chase Tesla to deliver humanoid workers. That's a Reuters article. It only came out today. It came out the 23rd. So it is a fresh article. And of all news sources, I don't know, I will say what anybody else should do. I'm a fan of both Reuters and AP because I find them to be, for the most part, down the middle, which is the way I like to have my news, without them trying to tell me what I should think. So take that as you like, but I think it's a good article, something to definitely check out.
I think it's interesting just to hopefully wrap on robots, the RAP or WRAP, either one. I'll wrap on them for a second here. The robot demonstrations we're seeing are really impressive in their physical capacity, right? But that's really not the bleeding edge of where robot development has to focus. It's in reasoning and self familiarization with a novel environment, and that's not so impressive. It's not so dynamic. It's like the robot sitting there looking and thinking, right? So it's not an impressive demo, but that's where robotics have to go next. Once they have a completely, facile humanoid body, I should say, where they can spin in the air and jump and leap. I'm not wanting that in my household. I want a robot that can figure out things in my household. And then, as Beth was pointing out, move in a polite way, not in an abrupt and potentially dangerous way.
And I know you said your wrap, but I do want to, because I mean, our comment section, our folks are so awesome that I don't want to leave them out of this conversation because they're having fantastic points here. Justin mentioning that the $16K price point for a humanoid robot could be the first major inflection point for domestic robots. Just as people make payments on cars, I believe they will start making payments on robots. And then Jen said, if I had a choice between investing in a used car or a robot at that price point, never thought I'd say this, but I think I might be picking the robot. So just some, and I agree, $16K, not that I have $16K to throw around, but if it starts solving real problems that I can quickly do the math and go, $16K investment, this is what my payment plan would be. Okay, that's going to be, I don't know, if it was like a car, $16K is probably going to be like 200 or less or not, something like that. If it was like a lease, right? Okay, now I don't own it. It's in my house. They'll do wireless upgrades through the internet. It'll get smarter, and it does X, Y, and Z for me. Is that worth to? So there'll be some. You'll be able to quickly say, like, I don't know, is that worth 200? Do I save more than 200, whether it's in time or actual money per month, to have this robot that's only going to get smarter in my house? I don't know. Yeah,
I'll pay more than that per month for the robot that can cruise around my property and pick up the manure.
Yeah. There you go. Why doesn't that exist, by the way? How is that not a
It must be. It's going
to
be another $1 million idea.
Yeah.
Every farm and ranch in the country.
And that's a horse. What Andy's mostly talking about is horse manure, but there are dog owners who would pay for a robot that went around.
Another turn.
Freeze dry it. If it's not in the total solid state, give it a blast. And
Also the example Jen used was, would I purchase the robot over a car? Well, the robot theoretically could be your car, right? It's a humanoid robot. It's really strong. Just have it pick you up in your chair and walk you to wherever you need to go. I'm just, it's probably not as fast as a car, but who says you can't take your humanoid robot onto the bus or onto the rail or whatnot? And, just it can generate a system for you.
Back to the point I was making about what the robots in development really need to understand is, okay, they're right now doing things in a very confined, constrained space and range of performance. Now, if I'm going to take my robot out for a walk, and I want it to carry me on its back or otherwise, and make it all the way down into town, it better be well trained on what that's like all the way to the level of an autonomous vehicle, right? It has to understand all the traffic signals, all of the crosswalk things, and we're a long way from that for robot training.
I got to be honest, the visuals of a humanoid robot carrying a full-grown human in like a pouch or on their back is bizarre to me. I'm not saying it won't exist, but I mean, I'm a dad. My daughter's 13 now. I don't carry her anymore. But God knows there was many years where she would just go limp like kids do and just be like, "Carry me." Be like, "You're 50 pounds. I don't want to carry you up this hill." But like you're used to seeing that, but like.
Well, just imagine
human being like, "Carry me."
Well, just imagine this could be the return of rickshaws, right? Which is essentially that is a person-pulled wheeled vehicle that you sit in the back of. So if the robot can run at 30 miles an hour, pulling you, I mean that's the equivalent of a scooter or small car and things like that.
It's pushing towards WALL-E. It's speaking of WALL-E, let's talk about fast food again, because that was something I wanted to bring back up, because this came out 2 days ago. This is another one of those types of videos from The Hustle, actually. Pretty well done video, 8-9 minute video, which is, I don't know, I kind of feel like that's unusual. They don't do the longer form stuff typically with The Hustle, who's, by the way, owned by HubSpot. Now it was sold by Sam, can't think of his last name. But anyway, so just something interesting here. So that was a Taco Bell elevator. And then I'm just going to pause it here because this is really what I want to talk about. Sort of a newer, innovative design, which is more like a bank where the actual restaurant, the fast food, is sitting up one level up, and there's 4 drive-thrus underneath the restaurant, which you think is actually very, very innovative. And this is a really cool video that goes into a lot. Actually talks about how Chick-fil-A, it shows the Taco Bell one, but it honestly at the end talks about how Chick-fil-A is building this. Obviously this is brand new infrastructure. You're not going to literally lift up your McDonald's and retrofit it. You'd have to start scratch. But for high traffic areas, the video goes well into traffic patterns, what the Y, feed in is. It just talks a lot about what that drive-thru is. If you're in my town, when we only had the one Chick-fil-A, it did, before they did a retrofit on it, it did back up into the main street, like the main street. And obviously that's a huge problem, right? You can't have your drive-through people sitting still on a road that you should be doing 60 on, because there's no turning lane there in that particular case. And so they mentioned situations like that. So anyway, sort of AI, right? But I love this idea of basically stacking the restaurant over the top of what looks like, your bank teller, where you get the little elevators. Because if you think in this particular, there's, I guess, I don't know if this is probably just a CG anyway. It's not real, but there's it shows some windows up there, whatever. But you could totally just have workers, or I guess AI robotics, depending on how you do this, that are just lining these things up right over it. And then you're going to go to window 3, which means you're going to pull up under here, and they're just automatically making sure that your food is ready by the time you hit it. So just want to bring this up because, it's super cool. It's like I said, it's by The Hustle. You can look it up on YouTube. It's called The Rise of Mega Drive-Thrus, and it's dead on with what we were just talking about the other day.
I haven't seen that story, but that tech and that build out isn't new. it's been around for decades. And okay, so a little anecdote here. So there was a McDonald's back on Oahu, and this was a number of years ago, but they would use a automated track system, essentially, right? Like a treadmill system, to deliver your food to your car. Now, it wasn't a drop-down kind of thing, but you would pull up and the food would come from one side of the building, around the building, and deliver to your car. So they would make it in the back, and you would pick it up right in front of you. So the
conveyor belt?
Yeah, on conveyor belt, essentially. And you would drive up, and the window would automatically open. You'd grab it, and you'd go. And that was it. There wasn't any other interaction except for ordering in the front. And so this okay, to me, when I was a kid, this amazed me. And this is along the ideas of like the pneumatic tubes way back in the day, which was a physical delivery system, right? Had tons of infrastructure, but you could deliver mail to an entire building, from one location. And so this was along those lines. So not the newest idea, probably the newest implementation. And I think, yes, for fast food, since they look like they designed it for better traffic throughput, probably just a better design of how that restaurant should work.
And, you point really quick, I'm just thinking like, every kid, you just said it, Jyunmi. Like as a kid, I thought that was amazing. And I'm looking at this image again, still on the other screen, and it's closed off. And you think, God, no, you have a good point, Jyunmi. Like if you're going to do that and have really cool ways of like, I know Chick-fil-A has it where it takes it up and goes through the ceiling and stuff. Make that thing all windows where kids can see it, because kids would be like, I want to go there. I don't want just a Happy Meal. I want to see it travel through all the tubes and all the stuff. It would be such a cool experience for kids. So anyway. Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No sweat. I wanted to say how thought-provoking that particular little segment was for me, because now you think about the long history of changes in architecture as a result of the automotive, and industrial revolutions, and all the things that had to change about what Main Street was to suburbia in order to accommodate that, and all of the highways and the elimination of sidewalks, in favor of more lane width. And all those changes are very slow to happen and kind of sticky, because it's very hard to make the investments. But imagine now the advent of robotics and AI is going to change architecture. And we just saw an example of it. Here's the drive-through of the future, which has automated systems to get the stuff out there rather than people on roller skates to roll out to deliver the food. Can I pivot to something that I wanted to talk about on this show?
Yeah. I'm out of stuff, so please,
Okay. Yeah. So, this is in the sort of area of, large language models. They're transforming a lot of different things and processes in our lives. But one of the areas where they really have made a huge change is in software development, in coding. And we're in an era where a single engineer can create a tool using large language models like Grimoire. So Nick makes a coding assistant that can do things for you. And now there's a number of startups that are delivering these things. We heard in our news shows about the advent of Devin. I don't know why I'm using the word advent. I'm not an Adventist. Trust me. Anyway. Devin was a coding assistant that came out that performed better than many others on benchmarks. Well, I think there's a coming wave that was talked about by Eric Schmidt, where we as humans can give natural language instructions to a coding agent to build an application that has agency in the world and goes out and does that and then refines itself over time. And he thinks that's the major force that will create massive disruption in what we currently view as it's really supportive of what we do, which is all the software as a service. We talked about service as a software. Well, this is all leading up to today announced there is a $60 million Series A from Andreessen Horowitz, one of the major venture capital firms, for a company called Cursor. Cursor is different from most of the others because it's starting with the idea that the process of coding for engineers and for low coders like us who are, working with these tools, the process is focused on natural language interface with the coding assistant. Getting toward that, take a look at Cursor, because Cursor just got $60 million to deliver on the promise that Eric Schmidt just put out, that we talked about in one of the shows this past week, which is there's soon going to be the ability for you to design in your mind some application. These are the user experiences that I want. And you just tell your coding agent to do that, and it's going to launch it and run it and then improve it.
Yep. That's the dominant message that I'm seeing from developers on X, is the repeated, oh, okay, no, I'm so much faster. I'm getting 10 times more work done. This is Wrigley. Sorry, I didn't expect to talk about this today. Wrigley, who has a last name as well. McKay, maybe Wrigley McKay, was mentioning just the other day that in their opinion, the AI software engineer is at a high enough level that it could legitimately be your tech co-founder, right? Like, we're at that place in their opinion, that we are there. And this brings us back to why, if you are a domain expert, if you have an expertise in what you do repetitively every day, that is potentially now an app or a SaaS or something like that, right? And we were talking that people build GPTs for custom GPTs for something that you're going to do often, right? You're just going to do it over and over again. Now, could you build an automation? Could you build an automation plus a little bit of logic? Could you build, because I have to say the apps that I'm building are just web pages with some JavaScript, right? Like, they're not things that you couldn't have built before AI. There are things I wasn't building before AI because it was not worth it to me to do that. And they're literally things that I built in sheets, right? They're like spreadsheet things because I knew how to code in a spreadsheet because it's function based. And now I can make it a much nicer user interface and give other people those experiences. And those are tiny little niche things. I'm not making $100,000 off this. I'm not making $5 off this right now, right? Like, but it's so useful to be able to have some, just some automation, some automatic generation kind of things. I find it super exciting, personally.
Yeah, I really want to take a closer look at Cursor. That came across my radar a week or two ago, and I think it'll be a very, very powerful tool. I'm just waiting for the day where I can just have a conversation with my AI, and this is the thing I need it to do. Can you build that for me? All right, cool. And that's it. That's all I need. And whether that's just for me, is it a SaaS product? I don't know, but I need to complete this thing, have it live on my computer. That in and of itself will be a milestone for any agent or agentic thing.
Everyone listening to this can have an experience like that right now using Claude with artifacts. I used it last night. I said, "Hey, I want you to, create an SVG file that has a circle with a line width of a 1/4 inch and a diameter of 8 inches. I want you to print that on an 8.5 by 11 thing." So it gave me the SVG that then I could print on the printer. And all of that was laid out in code on the right-hand side. As it's amazing what you can see when they provide basically a console for you that the AI coder is using to deliver what you just described in a simple couple of sentences.
And as the people say, this is the worst it will ever be.
Which is yeah, guys, we're not even in the fourth quarter of 2024. I was just writing I write a weekly newsletter for Scaled in my main 40-hour job. And so anyway, I was finishing it because it goes out on Mondays, and I was just saying, oh, it's like the end. It'll go out on Monday, which means it's the last week of August. And in the sales world, that just means crunch time, right? Like, get the deals in, let's go. We got 5 days, the last day of the month. So I'm always keenly aware of, like, even though I don't personally do the sales, that's the audience I'm talking to, So anyway, in that, I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, we have September, and then we're in Q4 of 2024, and you just look at this year, and maybe we definitely need to do a show with this. Obviously, we will before the end of the year. But what are the surprises, and what were people expecting? I think a lot of people were expecting GPT-5 or whatever that is. We had this idea in our head, but if you really step back and you just think about Claude with artifacts alone, I would say that is an AI movement in 2024 that could stand on its own. If you talked about nothing else, people could say, oh, remember 2024 when artifacts came out? And the crazy thing is, it's just one thing that was done sort of quietly. It wasn't like there was a lot of fanfare. That's not really Anthropic's way. But how crazy is that when you look at something that powerful, like you just pointed out, Andy? And it's just this thing that happened in 2024, along with a lot of other really super cool AI stuff, which is a good pivot to bring us to next week. So we wrap this up. Thank you for all the comments, as always. I love that in the comments, they're still working out the best combination of fast food. I think pizza Taco Bell combo is on the board, as well as some other ones. A Ken Taco Hut, which I think is Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut together. Jude calls that the Ken Taco Hut, and has a lane for each food category. Phenomenal. I'm all for it. Next week, we're going to be talking about a couple different topics. I've mentioned one of them because Beth brought it up, is talking about the reality paradox. We talked about it, right? So we're going to be having that. I think that's on Monday. We're going to be talking about RAG prompts. If you don't know what RAG is, it's okay. We'll go back over it again. But we're going to be talking specifically about how to get the most out of prompting to RAG systems. And no doubt, this group, as well as our others that do show up, are experts in that field. So we'll definitely help you out. We're going to be talking about when does fine-tuning make sense? OpenAI has made it available for both GPT-4o as well as 4o mini just very recently, and they have documentation on it and all this stuff. So when does that make sense? Should people be doing that? And like, what should you be doing well before that, before you get into fine-tuning? That's going to be one of our shows. We'll have the news. And then finally, for our every other Friday, we do this show, but the other alternating Friday, we try to do a tool review if there's one that sort of naturally makes sense. Obviously, last Friday we did Opus with Clip Anything. This upcoming Friday, we're going to be talking about GPT actions. Sorry, the lawn people are out. GPT actions haven't traditionally been my favorite. That's just my opinion on it. I think they've sort of missed the mark. But I think while I haven't been paying attention, they've gotten a lot better. So we're going to give you our honest review of where they are now. And that will be next Friday's show. So lots coming up. Go to the website, thedailyishow.com, sign up for the newsletter. We're putting the finishing touches on that. It's going to be another awesome newsletter. If you want more than you could possibly get out of this live show, you need to sign up for the newsletter. It's free. There's zero reason not to do it. Let's be honest. There's zero reason for you not to sign up for the newsletter and get really, really good stuff out of it. So go to thedailyishow.com and you can get all the information there. And with that, I think this has been yet another successful week of the Daily AI Show. This is 275, Jyunmi? Usually no faster than me. Episode 275 is in the books, and there's only one last thing to say. You guys know what it is. Here it comes.
Aloha.